Greetings, everyone. This is a shot of whiskey, and I know I haven't been making a whole lot of content lately, as it usually is when I go for extended periods of time without providing much content, if at all. It's because I have real-world responsibilities, a lot of them. They take up a lot of my time, and what time I do have, I tend to get kind of tired, and I need some time to rest. I need to be alone, all that kind of super fun stuff that involves being an adult. But hey, I wanted to make sure I got at least one video out to you guys before the month came to an end. So here it is, and it could very well be a long one. I'm going to try not to have it be super duper long, but it probably will be. It might even end up being the longest video I've ever made that was not a live stream. This started off with a conversation on Twitter that I got involved with about a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks at this point. And it started off with someone using the Lisa Simpson giving a presentation meme templates. This guy, which I just realized I probably should have saved who it was, but I didn't, whatever. But I think he's kind of in the same, lack of better words, group as us. He's a red polar from what I can tell. But yeah, here's the meme. I know you guys can read, but I'm going to go ahead and read this anyways. Women who get upset at men for dating younger women are female incels. Now, before I go too far into this, I want to just clarify this. I agree with the sentiment that this person is trying to convey. I do not agree with the use of the word incel, because we all know what that word means, and it does not necessarily apply to what's going on. Just like in the case of a guy who's pissed off about XYZ, it doesn't mean he doesn't get his dick touched, okay? He could be out there getting scores after scores of women, and he could still be pissed off about whatever the XYZ is. It's the same thing with this as far as I'm personally concerned. Moving on, somebody had said, okay, but why do men go for the super young ones then? I responded to the question in mind. I ignored the two sentences because, quite frankly, they were just that fucking stupid. Because they are more desirable, less likely to have baggage, less likely to be miserable, less likely to have mental problems, less likely to have multiple children from multiple males, less likely to be bitter, less likely to divorce, less likely to be diseased, etc. To which somebody else responded with this. Is any of this based off real studies, or did you just make all this up?
How long have you been practicing that one?
Now, a few things to point out before we continue going on with this. I plan on providing a link to this video in the Twitter discussion. Now, assuming that this person hasn't blocked me, I'm not going to post it. But if they're still open, I will. And if I do, and if that individual is here listening to my voice right here and now, thank you for at least humoring me by clicking on the link. I hope to make this worth your while, because despite me being a dick sometimes, I do want to educate people as much as possible, just like how I like the idea of educating myself, to finding out more information by going out and seeking it. So hopefully you will get that. That said, during our conversation, I had provided 3 different articles that had at least one source that addressed the main issue of what the overall conversation was: men preferring younger women. I thought that's what they meant, because that's what the conversation was. Looking back on it, I think they wanted me to go into the less likely to have baggage, less likely to have mental problems, that stuff, the list that I provided. So, which, honestly, I think most of these things should be obvious does to anyone who doesn't have their head up their own ass. But it could be just me, because I look into this stuff on a somewhat regular basis. I don't bookmark things all too well, unfortunately. I should probably do that more often so I can be much better equipped the next time I do these. But I think I've done pretty damn good. So for now, we're going to look over the 3 things that I did provide this individual, mostly so that way those of you who are regular listeners will know what I'm talking about. The first one is coming to us from Metro, and it came out almost exactly 5 years ago. Men, regardless of their age, will always be attracted to women in their early 20s. If you want to look at the difference between how genders see ages, you need to look no further than the most desirable age and how that differs if you're a man or a woman. No matter how old a man gets, he will always be attracted to a very young woman according to a study, which is exactly what this individual wanted was studies. In short, heterosexual men will find 20-year-old women most attractive regardless of how old they being the heterosexual men, are. Women, on the other hand, tend to find men of a similar age to them most attractive, so as they get older, women will generally start to be into older men. I don't entirely agree with this, but keep in mind, they're saying women in general. So I guess there's room for debate on that, which I'll get into that eventually at some point in this video. Miaxman, I have no idea if I said that right, don't really care, spotted the figures sourced from the book Dataclysm and shared the graphs, adding, if you want to see something really fucked up, have a look at this. The graphs show a worrying, from the perspective of a woman, sliding scale where both 20-year-old and 49-year-old men both cite women aged 20 as what they find the most attractive. The age of a woman men find most attractive never makes it above 24, almost like Leonardo DiCaprio knows what he's doing. Conversely, a 20-year-old woman will be most attracted to a 23-year-old man, but a 50-year-old woman will lust after a 46-year-old woman. Here's the graph as it relates to men finding what attractive. You'll see here that about half of them are 20. There's quite a number of 21s, there's 3 22s, there's 2 23s, and the one and only 24 is for men who are aged 45. I'm not going to bother showing you guys the women's graph because I don't really think it fucking matters. The second article comes from The Independent, and it's a little bit older than the first one, coming out in 2018. Older men like older women, but would still prefer relationships with younger ones, study finds. Now, even though the information in this article is good, I personally found it to be kind of boring. So I'm going to provide a link to this one down below, which I'll provide links for all of these so you guys can look at the entire thing. We're not going to read all of these articles. Fuck that shit. But I just kind of wanted to touch bases with you. That was link number 2. Number 3 comes from Median. Now, this is the one that the person was throwing a bitch fit about because OMG Reddit, it's automatically disqualifying. Which, if this was the Redditor's personal opinions, I would 100% agree with you. But it's not. They wrote this for a publication and cited 3 different studies. So, as far as I'm concerned, I technically gave you 5 studies in 3 links. Scientific proof that dating a younger woman is a good idea for all the naysayers out there who think that older men dating younger women is just not natural. Well, there is now scientific proof that dating a woman who is younger than you may be a good idea. A recent article in Scientific America explained the best age difference for a man is to be about 15 years older than his wife. A little further down the article, another recent study conducted by the prestigious Max Planck Institute actually raised that number, suggesting that a man gets the most out of marriage when he is married to a woman 15 to 17 years younger. This is very compelling evidence, and it means if you are 40, which I'm 41 by the way, you probably need to be dating a 23 or 24-year-old woman. This one here kind of goes more into the why. Another study published in the journal Biology Letters provides evidence that the reason that men prefer younger women is due to their high fertility, as if though that's supposed to be a shock, while women prefer older men due to their wealth and high social status, another shocker apparently, which make them good providers for the offspring. Now, while this isn't an official scientific study, I'm going to play a video clip of a man who interviewed a woman asking pretty much the exact same questions. And you know what? It's very relevant considering what her age is. So you might want to actually pay attention to her words.
Why do women like older men?
Okay, that's an amazing question. I'm 28 and I am assuring you that I will never ever date someone that is younger than 35 or 37, up to 48 even, because they're more mature. They already live. They already had all the sex they want. They already party all they want. So now they already know what they want in life, and that's what we want as a woman. Women tend to mature faster, and if it's a woman that is young but has the values and know what they want, that's what you want. A man that is settled, that knows what they want, like a family oriented and stuff like that.
What did you expect?
Okay, so now that I've provided those articles, we've gone into them a little bit, and I've provided that video of a young woman saying that she is on that same side, that she prefers the older guys. I didn't write this down, but the age range that she gave was something like between 8 and 20 years older than her. That's normal-ish for young women to like older men and older men to like younger women. That's far more normal than the other way around, where it's older women and younger men. Does it happen? Sure it does. As often? No. One such example would be Madonna. Perfect example of that. At least I think it's still an example. I know it was once upon a time. If she's still with the same guy that I'm thinking of, I believe he should be in his 30s right now. And she's 65. Yuck. Oh my god, that makes her the same age as my mom. Ugh. Anyways, I wanted to show you guys what she looked like when she was young and hot. Well, certainly young anyways. Boom, here you go. This was from her very debut album, which came out in the early part of 1983. I was a brand new infant at the time. So much so that when the very first song came out for people to listen to, I was still in the womb. I was a fetus at the time. That's how old her career is. That's how old she is, especially in comparison to me. Would I hook up with her? No. Even in her sexiest moments, I didn't really think they were all that sexy, to be entirely honest. In fact, sometimes I thought they were kind of comical. But especially nowadays, no way. I may be 41, but I ain't gonna hook up with this. She looks like a fucking wingless gargoyle. What the hell is going on through her head? It's disgusting. And here's another picture of her where she's looking less demonic, but still fucking old. She doesn't look like she's 65. She looks like she's 85 with a shit ton of work done. That's horrifying. That's disgusting. No thank you. But you see, now that I've made this comparison, I kind of want to go into this a little more, just for shits and giggles. If I were to hook up, and you know, this is of course assuming that every single woman I'm going to mention would want me. But if I were to hook up with a singer who is, I would say, significantly older than me, the only one that I would even consider would be Sharon Den Adele, who is 49 years old. Now, for those of you who don't know who that is, she's the lead singer for a Dutch metal band called Within Temptation. See, look at her. I think she looks pretty damn good for 49. This was taken just a few months ago. So this isn't, like 10 years ago or any sort of shit like that. This is recent. And she looks pretty good for her age, in my personal opinion. And going back, here is what she looked like when the band made their first debut. When they made their debut back in 2000, she was 26 at the time. I had just turned 18. Like, this photo shoot may have taken when I was still 17. I don't know. But the album came out like 2 weeks after I turned 18. Would an 18-year-old me hook up with this 26-year-old? You're damn straight I would have. Would I, a 41-year-old, be willing to hook up with the 49-year-old version of Sharon? Maybe. Probably not, if the situation actually arose, but that's more of a personal thing. However, I would imagine that the majority of 41-year-old single men, such as myself, probably would say, fuck yes. Why? Because she's hot. She takes care of herself. And unlike most of the women in this list, she actually has talent. Speaking of talent, or lack thereof, someone who's about my age. Let's go with the my age categories here real quick. Britney Spears. Oh my goodness. Did she have such a huge following when she was hot and young? Almost exactly like it's proving my point. Personally, I never really saw her as being that attractive. I mean, she was cute, but not enough to where I would fantasize about her or anything like that, like most of the guys around our age range. Now, she looks like this. That's kind of sad, really. I mean, just in this picture right here, she almost looks like she's my mom's age, which my mom and Madonna are the same age. But then again, Madonna looks like she's in her 80s. I'm pretty sure I already said that. But, just absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. I almost feel bad for Britney Spears with how horrible she looks, as well as her mental state, as she proved on Instagram, which, I don't know, maybe that was a joke. I don't believe so, to be honest, though. A lot of people would have been willing to hook up with Britney Spears when she was young and hot. Now, nowhere near as much so. Katy Perry is the next one that I want to bring up, and there's a specific reason for that. So she's about 2 years younger than I am, which for most of these female incels, as the meme would indicate, less than 2 years shouldn't be that big of a deal, especially since she and I are both about 40. I'm 41, she's 39. They're not going to flip out. At least most likely they're not going to flip out. Back when this picture took place, this was in 2008, which is the main reason why I want to use Katy Perry as an example. She was 24 in this picture. Not close to the maybe 18 limit like it was in the case with Britney Spears. She's definitely an adult here. She's definitely of the legal drinking age here. So it shouldn't be an issue, at least nowhere near as much as Britney Spears. That said, I personally would not hook up with Katy Perry in a serious note. As for like one-on-one fun, I'll be honest, yeah, I would totally fuck the shit out of that if I had the chance. Or at least try to. Looking back on it, I would say that was probably during a time period where I didn't see this picture, which compares what she looks like with all of the makeup, all the fake shit that she wears, versus what she looks like all natural. Doesn't even look like the same person. This is why a lot of us guys who call it fake up say that it's fake up, because it hides who the women are so much, it doesn't even look like the same person. And we've seen many video footage of women who look like they're 60-year-old meth heads do enough makeup and artificial work to where they look like, honestly, they look kind of like Katy Perry. It's kind of frightening sometimes. So that's why we call it fake up. This is how Katy Perry looks now. In fact, this picture is probably the newest out of all of the pictures I have for this particular segment. Think about a month ago. She looks okay. I mean, I'm not going to say she's flat out ugly, but she kind of looks like she's a little bit older. Like maybe she's closer to Sharon's age at 49 than at her actual age of 39. I personally would still not hook up with her, but that's more of a me personal thing. But I guarantee you there's a lot of guys my age who would have no problem with this, as well as guys who are about Madonna's age who would have no problem with this. Why? Because guys prefer younger women. That's just a fact. Now, just because I'm having fun with this, I'm going to go ahead and say that of all the female musicians here in the United States that are anywhere close to my age, I wouldn't go with Britney Spears. I wouldn't go with Katy Perry. I would probably go with Lizzie Hale, the lead singer for Hailstorm. This picture that you see of her was taken during the debut album that they had that came out in 2009. At this point in time, she was 25. She's beautiful. Absolutely remarkably stunning. And I'm not gonna lie, looking into a little bit more about their history, I find it to be kind of fascinating because I found out that during her teen years, she and her brother and another friend of theirs, they had a band where they did Christian music, where most of their songs were about not doing drugs or not having sex. In this album, almost every song is about I love fucking. That's pretty much it. I just find that to be kind of silly. Here's how she looks now at the age of 40. She looks kind of worn down, to be entirely honest. Not anywhere near as much as Madonna, but I would say a little bit more so than Katy Perry, so that's kind of disappointing. So, would I prefer the 40-year-old version of Lizzie over the 25-year-old? Fuck no. Now, finally, as far as singers, who are about my age. If we go outside of the United States, for me, the answer is hands down Manuela Crawler. She's currently 42. This picture right here was taken back in 2012 when she was the lead singer for a band that I'm not sure how to pronounce their name. It's either Xandria or Exandria, but she was 30 at the time. So, not bad looking. In fact, she dresses up pretty nicely. She's fairly conservatively dressed. But her singing, oh my God, her singing is amazing. You know what? I'm going to provide a little bit of one of my favorite songs of hers, just so that way you guys can see the point that I'm trying to get at. What I tell you guys, she's amazing. Oh my gosh. But that being said, 41-year-old whiskey and most 41-year-old single men would not want to be in a relationship with 42-year-old Manuela Crawler, especially compared to 30-year-old Manuela Crawler that we saw there. She was prettier, younger. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. I don't know what she currently looks like. That's why I haven't provided you guys a picture. But if biological trends apply to her as well, which last I checked, she was a biological human, so it should apply to her, she's aged. She doesn't look as good as she did when she was 30, especially since when she was 30, she looks pretty damn good. Would I hook up with 30-year-old Manuela? Maybe. Probably, actually. 42-year-old? No. It's very, very unlikely. That being said, if I did not have the life philosophy that I currently do, and I could choose any musician on the planet, no matter how unlikely it is, which, let's be real, is just about all of them. I'm fine with that. But if I gotta choose, I would say Momoko Okazaki, aka Momo Metal, from the band Baby Metal. Now, for the naysayer and for anyone else who's never heard of Baby Metal, they're not babies, as you can see in this picture. They're women. To clarify, when the band first started, which is in like 2010, maybe 2011, but I'm pretty sure it was 2010. At the time, they were babies as far as the industry goes. Plus, they went with the name Baby because it's kawaii metal. It's supposed to be cute and adorable, which honestly it was at first. It's still fun, but it was adorable back then because Suzuka, the one in the middle, was 13, Moa, the one on the right, and the other person who was part of the group, Yui, they were 11. They were so freaking cute, especially the 11-year-olds. They were adorable. But you know, a lot of 11-year-olds are. I mean, and hey, I can testify to that. I have a son who's 11-year-old. I think he's an adorable little shit. That being said, that was in 2010. Now, they're full-fledged women. Suzuka is 26. Moa is 24. Momoko, the one that I say is my number one pick, is 20. I could legally have a foursome with all three of them. There'd be no age issue whatsoever. That said, Momoko is going to be of legal U.S. drinking age in about a week. Her exact birthday is the 3rd. So as far as I'm concerned, a 41-year-old man hooking up with a 26-year-old woman, a 24-year-old woman, a 21-year-old woman, they're all perfectly fine. There's no logical reason to complain about it other than old women being butthurt that nobody their age wants them. That's all that this is, and this entire thing up to this point proves that. But let's continue on with some of the other issues that I have presented. Alright, so you can see here I've brought back my tweet that started this whole thing. I've also put a box around less likely to be diseased. And I did that mainly because the other things that are here, you can basically categorize them. Like 3 things here, 3 things here. In fact, I think I did exactly a 3-on-3 split. Disease I'm keeping separate just because of the nature of what it is. But it's still related to some of the things here. It's also, honestly, in my opinion, probably the most obvious duh on this entire list. I'm going to start off by doing a very, very obvious example. A 3-month-old is far less likely to have some type of a disease, being an STI or any type of virus or whatever, than a 50-year-old prostitute. Why? Because the 3-month-old hasn't been around for very long, hasn't been exposed to all that much, especially if the parents actually give a shit about them. They're probably going to be protected from everything, whereas the 50-year-old has probably caught everything multiple times from all of their experiences and all of their encounters, so much so that it probably would have made Hugh Hefner blush. That said, I want to go ahead and, before we continue on, play another video.
Body count, I have to say, does not matter because I have over 100 bodies.
Okay.
So, yeah.
20 years old, right?
Yes.
Over 100 bodies. Do you know exactly how much it is?
No idea.
Yeah, sorry, I kind of realized this as I was editing this, that I forgot to mention that I was going to throw another video of a similar nature at you guys. But there you go. There's another woman who's making a very similar and very disgusting admission. Moving on, this is according to ARS Technica. Gonorrhea is becoming unstoppable. Highly resistant cases found in U.S. This was published last year. For years, global surveillance data collected by the World Health Organization has shown that gonorrhea is becoming more and more resistant to our entire lineup of drugs, including frontline drugs like whatever that is. Though surveillance is spotty globally, a study of WHO's 2017 to 2018 data, published in 2021, found that this version of gonorrhea isolates with decreased susceptibility or resistance to that drug have turned up in 21 of the 68 reporting countries, or 31%, which is about the same percentage of how many countries we're reporting in. That's about a third. Resistance against alternative antibiotics was even higher. Among the 61 countries reporting data on an alternative antibiotic, that one, 51 countries, 84% reported resistance. And of the 51 countries that were reporting data on another antibiotic treatment, that one, 24, which is 47%, reported resistance. For that one, an antibiotic largely abandoned as a gonorrhea treatment due to resistance, all 70 reporting countries found resistance. In many people, gonorrhea has no symptoms. In others, it's so mild that it may be mistaken as a minor bladder infection or a yeast infection. Over time, however, it can lead to pelvic inflammatory disease, severe pain, and fertility problems. Health officials stress the need for screening and surveillance to treat infections early before they become severe and have a chance to spread. And this doesn't frighten you. You don't see this as a bad thing. How?
I left my boyfriend and I've been traveling for 10 days and I've slept with 22 people in that 10 days. My goal was 20 and I just hit 22 this morning. It's 1 p.m. now here in Paris and I need to check out because I'm going home.
That's fucking gross, and you do not understand why it is that I brought up that they're less likely to be diseased. You must be daft or really, really desperate to defend women. But let me point out part of the reason why I find this to be disgusting. This is from livescience.com, and it came out last year. Why are sexually transmitted infections on the rise in the U.S.? Surging STIs are being driven by a perfect storm of factors in the U.S. Rates of sexually transmitted infections, such as syphilis, have been rising over the past few years in the U.S. But why are STI rates surging now, and what can be done to reverse that trend? Reduced public health focus on sexual health has been a big factor in rising STI rates, experts told Life Science. Increasing opioid use, COVID-19, and the Mpox outbreak have exacerbated a lack of funding and resources in sexual health care, creating a perfect storm that's driving up cases in recent years, says this person from the Penn State Cancer Institute. Moving on. Changes in sexual behavior, such as a decrease in condom usage, which is stupid, and an increase in risky sexual behavior, whether it's due to opioid use or not, stupid, are likely also playing a role, experts told Life Science. Going further on, there's an entire subcategory, why are STI rates increasing? The CDC tracks the national rate of gonorrhea, chlamydia, and syphilis. Rates of these bacterial STIs were already rising in the 6 years preceding the pandemic. Over this period, gonorrhea rates increased by an average of roughly 10% each year, chlamydia by an average of 3.6% annually, and syphilis by an average 14% annually. Frightening. The true picture may be even worse as cases were underreported, especially amid pandemic-related disruptions that caused widespread closures of sexual health clinics and diverted staff from tracking STIs to monitoring COVID. These disruptions, also with those caused by last year's Mpox outbreak, probably increased STI rates because, and this is the part that I find to be the most frightening about it, because more people were having sex while unknowingly being infected. That 22-year-old could have all three of these and not know it. That doesn't frighten you at all? That doesn't prove my point at all? Are you serious? Okay, so we're going back to the list that I did. You see here that I've got 3 things that are boxed up: less likely to be miserable, less likely to have mental problems, and less likely to be bitter. And I did this for 2 reasons. The first one, obviously, being that I think the 3 of these are very well connected to one another, perhaps even to a point where it's almost impossible to separate them. The other reason is because compared to the other 3 that have yet to be done, this one here, in my opinion, I can kind of understand why someone would want citations and surveys and shit like that. The other one should be easy enough for Elmo to figure out if he ever leaves Sesame Street. That said, let's go to the first citation that I have for you guys. Women are more likely than men to use antidepressants when going through a breakup later in life. Published by People, which you see here, it says 1W, 1 week, which could be anywhere from 7 to 13 days. I've also had this for about a week, give or take. So we're looking at 2, maybe 3 weeks old. When relationships end later in life, women's antidepressant use tends to be higher than men's, a new Finnish study found. So yes, this is about Finland. However, I still think it's interesting to compare it to us simply because we have similar divorce laws, so in that respect, they kind of apply. Add to it that Finland allegedly has amazing healthcare compared to ours, so the access to these antidepressants is probably easier over there than here, which I think may be part of the reason why, at the very least, the men's is as high as it is. Maybe not. I don't know. It'd be kind of fun to see something comparable to here in the States. The study, published in the Journal of Epidemiology and Community Health last week, which may be last month at this point, examined the trajectories of antidepressant use before and after union dissolution and repartnering in later life using Finnish registry data. It looked at nearly 230,000 people, that's quite a bit for a study like this, who were 50 to 70 years old from 2000 to 2014. Of the examined individuals, 32.8% were divorced, 37.2% were bereaved, and 30% were separated and had stopped living together. This related link that you see here, I will be getting to that later. Researchers found that increases in antidepressant use associated with breakups were larger in women than in men. In the 4 years leading up to a split, women significantly increased their antidepressant use compared to men, with nearly double the rate. 6% of women took antidepressants, while only 3.2% of men did. Next up, we have something from the Wall Street Journal. You don't see it in this picture, but this story came out about 2 years ago. You'll see the exact date and who wrote it in the next picture. But for now, here's the title: Why So Many Women in Middle Age Are on Antidepressants. Scientists are gaining a better understanding of women's midlife depression. That should be of interest to you, little naysayer, by Andrea Peterson. For years, middle-aged women have had some of the country's highest rates of antidepressant use. Now, scientists are starting to better understand why and to develop more targeted treatment for women's midlife depression. About 1 in 5 women ages 40 to 59 and nearly 1 in 4 women ages 60 and over used antidepressants in the last 30 days during 2015 to 2018, according to the latest data from the National Center for Health Statistics. You see how the font is starting to kind of fade off? Well, that's because at this point I had to pay to read the rest of the article, and I'm not giving the Wall Street Journal any of my money. Fuck those guys. So that being said, let's go ahead and play a video clip instead of a woman who, she's not quite to this age, but I think this particular video does a really good job of highlighting exactly the type of women that this relates to.
So if you're in a place of feeling bitter or angry or frustrated that you have to do so much work to heal and to grow, and it just feels like you keep getting knocked down, no matter how much you try, it just keeps getting harder and you're just sick of it, I'm not going to tell you to be strong. I'm not going to tell you that there's an amazing, transformed, amazing version of you on the other side of this, because honestly, I don't want to hear that right now, so you probably don't either.
Going back to the People article that we had looked at earlier, there was that link we're looking at what that link takes us to right here. Record 1 in 6 U.S. adults has depression, says reports. A new survey finds that depression has risen to record numbers in the U.S. This came out last spring, so it's not old. It's technically kind of on the newer side, so it's still good. The number of adults with depression has reached record numbers in the U.S., according to a bleak new Gallup survey. More than 1 in 6 adults, about 18%, say they are either receiving treatment for depression or are currently depressed. The survey also found that nearly 30% of adults have been diagnosed with depression at some point in their lives. And for those of you who don't know, including the naysayer, that includes me. These are record-breaking numbers for the Gallup survey, which began collecting data on depression in 2015, better late than never, and found that the situation is most dire for women. This ties into my comment. More than 1/3 of women are now reporting that they have been depressed at some point, and their rate has risen at nearly twice the rate of men since 2017, the survey found. 1 in 3, more than that. Not enough for 1 and 2, not enough for 1/2, but more than 1/3. And you wonder why I mentioned depression in my list. Younger women are less likely to have it because they've gone through less shit. They've gone through less shitty men or less shitty women or less shitty experiences than the women who are my age, which is one of the main reasons why they are more desirable. They have less problems, or they're less likely to have problems. Let's be real on that. Moving on, the article ends with 2 examples of celebrities who have struggled with depression before. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Janet Jackson. Not sure why they did this or why they chose these 2 specifically, but Janet Jackson had a quote that they used for the end. And I'm going to show you that quote, as well as the final sentence used in the article. Put it all together, and depression is a tenacious and scary condition. And it absolutely can be, which is why I love this last sentence. If you or someone you know needs mental help, text STRENGTH to the crisis text line at 741-741 to be connected to a certified crisis counselor. In a similar breath, I have an article from TMZ that came out about a week ago. Certain type of a star, Cagney Lynn Carter, dead at 36 after self-deletion. I found out that she went the way of Kurt Cobain. She took a certain type of pew-pew stick and went boom-boom to the brain. That said, depression can cause a lot of people to go down this path. In the case of Cagney, I believe a lot of it probably ties into what made her for lack of better words, famous. And this article ends in a very similar way to the previous one. If you or someone you know is struggling or in crisis, help is available. Call or text 988 or chat at 988lifeline.org. This is a much, much better option than doing what Cagney did. And yes, I truly do believe, without really knowing how much investigating has been done with this, but I truly do believe that she did it because of that previous profession. That kind of thing can really screw with a woman's brain. Now, I have another video here. I wasn't exactly sure where I wanted to put this. I'm going to put it here now because it does tie into women being in short relationships. And it doesn't get much shorter than doing the stuff that Cagney did for a living.
Point in our lives, 22 years old, I would say probably like 50 was me.
If you're 22 years old and you say your body count's 50, we're going to care. And it's actually not for the reason you think. See, you'd think that we'd have a problem with the fact that you've been fucked by a new dude every month and a half for the last 6 years. But seriously, that's not the problem. The problem is that while you slept with those 50 dudes, none of them wanted to keep you around. And sure, there's going to be a lot of women in the comment section who are like, no, I didn't want them. Then why'd you let them fuck you? You obviously wanted them. See, sex happens because you want it. Relationships happen because we want it. And if you've managed to sleep with 50 dudes by the age of 22 and none of them wanted to stay with you, even though you slept with them, none of them were like, well, that's worth dealing with her personality. That says something about you.
So I felt like that was the right place to put this. Not necessarily because of, talking about an adult star Minecrafting themselves, but well, it kind of ties into it. The next article that I have, I think, relates possibly to Cagney's situation. I know that there are some others like her who've left the industry for whatever reason, and they're having certain relationship issues. And it could be possible that may have been part of Cagney's depression. I don't know. But this comes from The Atlantic. Fewer sex partners means a happier marriage. People who have had sex with fewer people seem to be more satisfied after they tie the knot, is their hope for promiscuous romantics. If you are on the proverbial market as you rack up phone swipes, first dates, and likely new sexual partners, you might start to ask yourself, is all this dating going to make me happier with whomever I end up with? In other words, are you actually getting any closer to finding the one? Or are you simply stuck on a hedonic treadmill of potential lovers, doomed like some sort of sexual Sisyphus to be perpetually close to finding your soulmate, only to realize far, far too late that they are deal-breakingly disappointing? Well, sociology has some unfortunate news. Over at the Institute for Family Studies, Nicholas Wolfinger, a sociologist at the University of Utah, has found that Americans who have only ever slept with their spouses are most likely to report being in a very happy marriage. Meanwhile, the lowest odds of marital happiness, about 13 percentage points lower than the one-partner women, belong to women who have had 6 to 10 sexual partners in their lives. For men, there's still a dip in marital blah, 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 blah. I don't know, because this is another article where I had to pay to read, and I'd rather pay for the Wall Street Journal than the Atlantic. So that's all you're getting from me.
Would you settle for me, Sussin?
Okay, so moving on to the final topic, the one that, in my opinion, should be insanely obvious for anyone to figure out. Less likely to have baggage, less likely to have multiple children from multiple males, and less likely to divorce. Before I go into this, I would like to clarify that last one, less likely to divorce, I originally was trying to say less likely to have been divorced, but because of the character limit thing that Twitter does, I scaled that back a little bit. Probably a little bit more than I should have. I realized this after I had sent the message, but I figured, screw it, I'll go ahead and just roll with it. I could have, at least I should have, had it be less likely to be divorced. That would just be an extra, 4 characters. Might have been able to work, but whatever. That's what I meant with that one. which that should be an obvious duh if you have the ability to think about timelines. A 21-year-old is far less likely than a 41-year-old to have been married, let alone divorced. So that should be an obvious. You got 20 years. I mean, I showed you that one video clip of the woman who was 32 who was divorced twice. Name a 21-year-old who's been divorced twice, let alone once. That's the point that I was trying to make with that. That should be an obvious duh. I'm not even going to bother looking for some stupid-ass survey for that. Going back a little bit, less likely to have multiple children from multiple males. Rather than looking up for articles, I'm going to show you some video clips. And yes, some, as in 3. You're welcome.
You have 6 children, the youngest of which is 4 weeks old. How did your mother end up with all of your kids?
She sent them to me.
You got to know there's something a little off here. As long as you keep taking them, she's gonna keep having them. Baby number 6 is the child of a married man. He's cheating on his wife.
Okay, well, that ain't got nothing to do with me.
That's his character. Oh, she's pissed now. You got a little attitude? You know how to have a baby. Do you know how to mother a child?
How old are you?
41.
41. What do you do for a living?
I am a home health care agency owner. I have a small little business.
Home health care owner?
Yes, ma'am. I'm so
Melissa?
nervous. Okay, don't.
Melissa, California, Fresno, 41, home health care owner. You have any kids?
I do.
How many kids?
I have 2 at home.
Do you have more than 2 outside the home?
I do. I have 6 altogether.
You gave birth to 6 children?
I did. I gave birth to 6 children.
Okay, what are your kids' age?
Gosh, my thing. 23. My youngest is 10. So from 23 to 10. Every 10 years. So 23.
23.
23, 22, 21, 23, 21, 18, 16, 15, and 14. Almost 14.
Are they all by the same man?
No, ma'am.
How many men?
4.
4 men. Have you ever been married?
My daughter's over here hyping me up. She's over here.
Melissa, have you ever been married?
I have not.
Why didn't you marry any of the men you had kids with?
Girl, I was young, dumb, and no, none of them are, no. They were not marriage material. And I probably wasn't marriage material at that time either, so I'm not even going to front.
A lot of people got something to say about the fact that I got 6 kids with 6 different men. So I'm just going to tell y'all why it is better to do it this way. If I had 6 kids with all the same dude, I get 34% of his income, which is only $680 a month. If I got 6 kids with 6 different dudes, I get 17% from each one of them, which is $340 a month from each one. $340 a month times 6 baby daddies is $2,040. So why don't you have 6 baby daddies?
Well, there you go. 3 examples of women who have 6 children each. One of them we saw, they didn't clarify how many fathers are in the picture. I kind of get the impression that there's at least 2, indicating that at the very least, child number 6 belongs to a married man. That's why 6 was singled out compared to the other 5. 6 belongs to a married man. And she didn't care that he was married. She's like, oh, it's not my problem if he's having an affair. You're the reason why he's having an affair. You're enabling him. You are just as bad as he is. Sure, we could talk about how much of a shitty person he is. I don't think it's really relevant for this exact video because we're talking about what kind of people heterosexual men want to date. But yeah, she's a horrible human being. The other 2, you got the one who, she admits that she's not the greatest of people. I mean, she still talks smack about the 4 men who sired her children as if though that somehow made any difference to her when she spread her legs for all of them. But she admits she's not the greatest of person, but yet still at the age of 41, having 6 children, not knowing the ages of her own children, she thinks that she is deserving of a man who makes $500,000 a year. Nuh-uh. You don't deserve a man that makes 1/10 of that. Just because you have a lot of mouths to feed because you couldn't keep your legs closed, it doesn't mean you deserve a man who makes money. As for the third one, in my opinion, she's the worst of the 3 because she is admitting that she is intentionally making babies with different men. 6 babies, 6 daddies. Why? Because she can get more money from child support, meaning she is admitting to being a welfare queen. She is literally the scum of the dating market, at least as far as this particular group goes. You really want any man of value to date someone like this because you think it's weird and creepy for a guy in his 30s to date a 21-year-old. Why? Use some fucking logic. Why? Say something that makes sense. Why? Going over the baggage aspect that my tweet included, baggage can include children. Now, in my mind, it's also separate because the mother could have multiple children with one dad. The mother could have just one child. It still counts as baggage as far as I'm concerned. Plus, children are not the only form of baggage that a single woman can carry or will be carrying, or you know where I'm going with this. There could be more to her than just children. And one of those is debt. I'm providing just one article that relates to that, mostly because I just want to get this done and over with, but also because this one in particular was the only one on the subject that I can find that covered single parenthood. I have no idea how to pronounce this. Bouse is my guess. Why women tend to be in significantly more debt than men. Going down to the single parenthood part, raising a family is a tough job for 2 parents and much more demanding for single parents. The burden of single parenthood, unfortunately, affects disenfranchised women even more. Over 80%, which you see that it's highlighted, it's a link. I didn't even bother to click on that, so I don't know what it talks about. I don't know if it emphasizes that it means 80.1 or 89.9. It's more than likely somewhere in between because there's mathematical odds. But over 80% of single-parent households in the U.S. are led by single mothers. This logically would suggest that it is saying anywhere between 10.1 and 19.9 are single fathers, unless it's also including single grandparents, aunts, uncles, something to that effect, then the number would go down. Either way, we know that there's single fathers out there, and if for some reason you don't think that they exist, I'm a single father, so I exist, they exist, and I can also clarify that I can empathize with some of this aspects that is covered. Continuing on, of these, 30% live in poverty, which technically I have, and more than half of them are responsible for more than one child. No, that doesn't apply to me. The poverty in these single-parent households mean that many of the mothers can't afford daycare services. That does apply to me. As such, if there is an emergency, the mother has to take time away from the job, further reducing her income. I kind of can relate to that. Thankfully, I have a unionized job where I'm guaranteed 40 hours a week. Unless I've taken up so much of my vacation and sick time off that I have none left, then I do get a pay cut based off of my absences. In fact, I had that happen last month. Not because of my kid, but for other reasons. And I won't even bother getting into that. But point being, I can relate to it. Sometimes your children have emergencies that you have to tend to, and that can affect your employment. So I'm going to end this with one final article. An article. Because it is an example of one other bit of baggage that I think, as a 41-year-old man, if I were to get into the dating scene, I think is a very important thing to consider when looking at a woman in general. If I go for a woman who's about my age, odds are she's going to have children, which means odds are there's at least one father, biological father, in the picture. Which means I might experience something like this. Georgia man charged with murdering ex-wife and her boyfriend during custody exchange for teen daughter. Yeah, I could be shot because my girlfriend's kid doesn't want to see daddy. I'm not going to go over the contents of this article. As I said before, link in the description. Read it if you want to. But basically, The teenage girl did not want to spend time with her father. Her father got pissed and killed the adults involved. How much logic does that make? Oh, that's right, none. Stupid fucking dumbass. I can understand a father wanting to see his kid. Why do something that's stupid? Why? That's dumb. I don't give a damn what the details of it were. Unless it was a case to where the boyfriend was trying to shoot you first, there's no reason for it. None. That being said, I have given many reasons why all of the things that I listed are valid, logical, factual points as to why, generally speaking, older men like younger women. And in some cases will pursue relationships with said younger women. Now, obviously, that's not always the case, and a lot of that also depends on what you mean by younger. My father, who is currently 66, is married to a woman who is 52? 51? Somewhere around there. Early 50s. They've been married for about 6 years now. She, compared to him, is a younger woman. She ain't a young woman, though. Her son is dating a young woman. She herself is not young. So this whole thing is ridiculous. It's really stupid. When I see someone who's clearly a woman, which was the case of the person who was bringing up the issue that I answered originally, to me it says either A, she was abused sexually so much that she doesn't know what love is anymore, or B, she's old and bitter and does not like the idea that men her age would prefer girls who are 10 years younger than her. That's it. Could there be exceptions? Sure, why not? I don't think there's that many, though. It's more than likely one of those two things. She's either mentally scarred or she's just jealous. So what's your excuse, little naysayer, assuming that you even watched this video and assuming that you've even made it this far? Why did you want to fight me so much on this? Why could you not accept reality? Why could you not accept that a 41-year-old man was just simply trying to share knowledge? I'm not looking for a relationship. I haven't been in any type of a relationship in many years. Last time I had sex was over 6 years ago. Last time I actually felt like I was in a quote-unquote relationship was more. I mean, don't get me wrong, the first couple of years since the last time I got laid, I thought about it. I had even talked with a couple of gals about the possibility of going out or whatnot. Reality kind of kicked us in the balls in both cases. If you're someone who believes in the whole cosmic universe bullshit, the universe did not want me to be in a relationship with either of these women. I'll just put it that way. Which I guess I should owe the universe thanks. Again, that's assuming that the universe actually is conscious and is doing this kind of shit. But I don't even feel offended that either you or the other person are just reeing over older men liking younger women. It's like, okay, so you're an idiot. You don't understand men at all, let alone older men. Whoop-de-doo. You have an older man who's just simply trying to explain something to you, and you're instead wanting to cover up your ears and go, la 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 la. You're a child. Grow up and learn. I feel like I'm going to be beating a dead horse at this point, so I'm just going to end the video here. Whether you're someone who's been following my channel long enough, or if you're a new person like the naysayer or some other random person, thank you for listening. I have no idea how long I've spent on this, because I'm doing this in like sound bites. Hopefully it's not more than 40 minutes long. I'm trying so hard. Doesn't seem like it with how much I'm rambling right now. So, catchphrase time. If you abuse alcohol, it will abuse you back.